Welcome back, everybody, to the Time Personal channel. And today, I'm going to be talking about the whole entire NHL playoffs. Now, I know I haven't really mentioned the playoffs on this channel, but since I'm talking about NHL, the playoffs just ended. We're going into the off season. I might make some videos about the off season. The draft is coming up in a couple of days. So let's just talk about it. Let's talk about it. I'm gonna get to the game sevens. I'm gonna get to the game sevens after I talk about the rest of in the first round. After I talk about the rest of the series in the first round, and so the first series besides the game seven, it was the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Minnesota Wild, and Vegas took them down in 6 games. It was a fun series, but Vegas won, and Vegas advanced. And then there was the Edmonton Oilers taking on the LA Kings. The Kings took a 2-0 series lead, and the Oilers won the next 4 games, 1-6, and so Vegas versus Edmonton round 2, and then we had Toronto versus Ottawa. Now, Toronto took a 3-0 series lead, and lost 2 straight, but then won Game 6 to win it in 6. And then the next series was Florida versus Tampa. The Panthers versus the Lightning, defending champions versus the Lightning, and the Panthers. I thought this was because I thought that the Lightning were going to win in 7, but the Panthers dominated that series and won in 5 games. And then the next series, Capitals, Canadiens. Canadiens were the last team to clinch the playoffs, and they lost to the Capitals in 5 games. But then the Hurricanes beat the Devils in 5 games in a dominant series win. And then we had the 2 game sevens. These were fantastic. We had the first game 7 that happened. It was between the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche, neck and neck the whole series, and the Avalanche were up 2-0 in the 3rd period, and then Mikko Rantanen, who got traded from the Avalanche to the Hurricanes. Well, no, it got traded from the Avalanche to the Hurricanes, and then the trade deadline, he wasn't on the Hurricanes for that long in the season, and then Hurricanes traded him to the Dallas Stars, and so it was Dallas versus Colorado, and Mikko Rantanen scored one goal, 2-1, and scored another goal, 2-2, and then Wyatt Johnston scored 3-2, and then Mikko Rantanen scored the empty netter to seal the game, a 4-2 win for the Stars in Game 7, hat-trick from Mikko Rantanen, what a performance, but then I thought that the Winnipeg St. Louis Game 7 wouldn't top the Dallas vs. Colorado Game 7, but I was wrong. Because Connor Hellebuyck, who's the best goalie in the league, won the Hart, won the Vezina trophies, he's kind of like, he's not really that good in the playoffs, especially away. And so, won the first 2 games at home, the Jets, but then the Blues came back 2-2 in the series, and the Jets won Game 5, Blues won Game 6, and then it was all going into Game 7, and they were down 3-1 in the 3rd period, and everyone thought it was over. It was kind of like the, not really as bad, but it was kind of like the Dallas vs. Colorado game, where not everyone, but most people thought it was over. But then you had Winnipeg coming back from down 3-1, ties it, so scores with 2 minutes left, 3-2. Then, with 1.6 seconds left, ties it up 3-3. And so then we go into overtime, and then we go into double overtime. And very late into double overtime, the Jets score, win 4-3, and are off to the second round to face the Stars. And, I mean, what a game. This was a great Game 7, fantastic Game 7. But then, in round 2, we had Winnipeg versus Dallas. And Dallas, won in overtime in 6 games. Well, in Game 6, won in overtime to seal the win in 6 games. And, it was a pretty great performance by the Stars that series, and Connor Hellebuck just didn't really show up that well, especially away. He was terrible away this playoffs. He was good at home, but he was terrible away. And then we had Vegas, the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Edmonton Oilers, and the Oilers were up 2-0 in the series. And I forgot to mention this, but the reason that the Oilers came back from down 2-0 against the Kings was because they pulled their starting goalie Stuart Skinner and put in a backup goalie Calvin Pickard for the rest of the series, won 4 straight. And then for the first 2 games, they had Calvin Pickard in one, and then won the next 2. So it was 2-0 in the series. But then Calvin Pickard got injured in Game 2, and so then we had Stuart Skinner start, and the Oilers tied it late 3-3, and then with 0.4 seconds left, Skinner comes out of the net, tries to save it but can't, hits off Draisaitl. The guy shoots it, hits off Draisaitl's stick, and goes into the net, and Vegas wins Game 3. But then Skinner helps the Oilers, win Game 4 and win Game 5 to win the series in 5 games. And so our Western Conference Finals are set between the Dallas Stars and Edmonton Oilers. But then in the East, we had the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the chokers of the playoffs versus defending champs, the Florida Panthers. And so the Panthers at the trade deadline acquired Brad Marchand and Seth Jones, and they were key in the playoffs for the Panthers because the Maple Leafs took a 2-0 series lead and were up 3-1 against the Panthers in Game 3, potentially to take a 3-0 series lead. And the Oilers scored 3 straight. Or not the Oilers, the Panthers scored 3 straight, 4-3, and then Maple Leafs tied it up 4-4, and then overtime, Marchand wins it. And Marchand went on to have a phenomenal playoff performance. We'll get to that. And then the Panthers won the next 2 games, up 3-2 in the series, but then and in Game 1 of the series, Sam Bennett he injured Anthony Stolar, so they put in Joseph Woll for the rest of the series, and he won Game 6, 2-0 shutout, but they lost Game 7, 6-1, and they lost Game 5, 6-1. So, yeah, but yeah, devastating Game 7 loss for the Maple Leafs, and Panthers were off to their 3rd straight conference final. And then we had the Hurricanes versus Capitals. I thought it was going to be a pretty close series, but the Hurricanes dominated, took down the Capitals in 5 games. So we had the Hurricanes and the Panthers 2 out of the last 3 years face off in the conference finals, and 2 out of 3 years Edmonton and Dallas face off in the conference finals. So yeah, but in the conference finals and the Western Conference Finals, Edmonton, Stuart Skinner put the pressure on Dallas, and they won in 5 games. And the coach got fired because he pulled Ottinger in Game 5, kind of for no reason. Just let up 2 goals and then he pulls them. But yeah, that turned out to be a costly mistake because Edmonton wins and is off to their second straight Stanley Cup final. But the Panthers are off to the third straight as they take down the Hurricanes in 5 games, and because the Hurricanes can't win in the conference finals. They just can't. They can't. But yeah, they were gonna get swept for like the 5th time in the past 4 or 5 conference finals they've been in. They've got swept, but they didn't. They won a game 3, but they ended up losing in 5 games. So it was a rematch of last year's finals between the Panthers and Oilers, and so game 1, you had 3 tied up 3-3. Oilers coming back from down 3-1, and Draisaitl gets the overtime game winner to win it for the Oilers. In game 1. And in this series, the two undeniable, or I guess Draisaitl was kind of in that conversation. The 2 undeniable favorites for Conn Smythe were Marchand and Bennett. Sam Bennett, the leading goal scorer in the playoffs, and Marchand, a fantastic performer for the Panthers these playoffs, as the Panthers win 5-4 in double OT. In game 2, Marchand scores the game winner, and then in game 3, dominant wins 6-1. Then in game 4, you have the Panthers 3 straight goals on Skinner in game 4 in the first period, and so they pull Skinner, put in Calvin Pickard, who's back from injury, and the Oilers come back from down 3-0 and have a 4-3 lead with 19 seconds left. Sam Reinhart scores to tie it up 4-4. Then we go into overtime, and Draisaitl scores the game winner to break the all-time overtime record in goals, overtime winners in the playoffs, and so the series was tied up 2-2. But then Panthers with a big 5-2 win over the Oilers in Game 5. And in Game 6, the Panthers win the Stanley Cup with Sam Reinhart getting 2 empty netters, 2 normal goals for a 4-goal game. And what a fantastic performance by Sam Reinhart. I mean, just what a performance, to be honest. If there was a Stanley Cup final, if there was a final game, Stanley Cup final MVP, that would go to Sam Reinhart. But Sam Bennett wins Conn Smythe. The Panthers win back-to-back Stanley Cups. The Oilers lose back-to-back Stanley Cups. And Corey Perry lost 5 of the last 6 Stanley Cup finals. So, we'll see what happens in the offseason. But, devastating for the Oilers. But Panthers win back-to-back Stanley Cups. See what happens in the offseason, the draft, free agency. And, that's it. Peace out, pretzels.